Tory leadership frontrunner Boris Johnson believes an obscure piece of trade legislation dubbed Gatt24 could help Britain leave the EU without a deal in October and minimise any disruption. But critics argue it would require Brussels to agree to negotiate a different deal to the withdrawal agreement, and there's little chance of that. RTK's Issa Ali joins me now for the latest. So, Issa, what exactly is Boris Johnson talking about here?
Well, the former Foreign Secretary, Mr Johnson, he's trying to perhaps chart out an alternative that the UK could pursue in the event of a no-deal Brexit. He's calling upon a piece of legislation known as the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or more popularly known as GATT, in particular Article 24 of it. And that would be something that would allow the UK, for example, to trade in goods with other signatories, but wouldn't allow for exchanges of services or other freedoms that we have currently, for example, as being members of the EU. And perhaps there are many who don't know exactly what Gatt24 is. Well, we've put together this little clip just explaining the basics. So as we saw there in that little clip, it would require the approval of both sides, both parties, to any negotiation. So it would need the EU's approval to go along with it. And that's something which the International Trade Secretary, Liam Fox, has pointed to, suggesting that that wouldn't really be a no deal because it would be some form of deal. And also Mark Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England, he appeared in front of MPs to also express whether leaving with a 10-year GATT agreement was the same as a no deal.
Just to be clear, at least it gets into questions of, as many things in this broader topic do, questions of semantics and precise language. But if one is asked, can you have no deal and Gatt24? Well, an agreement is a form of deal, an agreement to use Gatt24, at least in my understanding of the English language, recognize them. From Canada, but we use this.
So I almost.
It's relative. These are relatively small words, and I think I understand them. So there needs to be some form of, as I've said, some form of agreement.
Now, there are some within the Conservative Party for whom this Gatt24 idea is perhaps alarming. They could be described as either those who support leaving the EU under a so-called in an orderly manner, or even Remainers, people like Ken Clarke. And so there is some disquiet there. But as far as which could lead to those MPs like Dominic Grieve, like Ken Clarke, voting against any no deal. But of course, as Dominic Raab, the former Brexit Secretary, was pointing out earlier, voting against a no deal wouldn't provide any sort of legal guarantee against it taking place.
Well, if there is a motion passed by MPs which says it will have zero legal effect, the greatest risk that we face right now is to continue this uncertainty.
So then what MPs within the Conservative Party that do have misgivings about the potential of a no-deal outcome would have to do would be to support any no confidence motion put forward by, for example, Jeremy Corbyn. And if they were to do that, it could lead to a general election. So no guarantees either way how this is all going to play out.
Thank you very much indeed for that. Well, for more on this, I'm now joined by Senior Partner at Brexit Partners, Professor John Ryan. John, good to see you here in the studio. Gatt24, did you know much about it before the beginning of this week?
Yeah, I mean, we've been down this road before with the whole WTO issue, and different groups of experts from the Brexit side have tried to pump out different concepts. And this is another in the never-ending sort of line of those. So I don't really think this is going anywhere.
Really?
No.
It's not going to solve the no-deal scenario?
Really, no. I don't think so. I think it just shows you that they are grasping at something that's not really going to be tangible. And really, this really seems like sort of a wild goose chase. It looks like they're really not looking for solutions in a way. They're putting this out, and it's a diversionary issue. So people are focusing on that. What is it, a dead cat under the table or on the table? Instead of looking at what he's going to try and do to actually get to a no deal, and he may not be able to succeed in getting to a no deal anyway.
But surely isn't he dressing up a no deal scenario with this GATT option? Because having a no deal, surely both sides have to be pragmatic. We do need to trade, and surely we need something in order to do that.
But not on British terms. Britain is the one that decided to leave. And the EU have made it very clear they're not interested in renegotiating the withdrawal agreement. And so we have to see who's going to blink down the line. And the question is, you've got Dominic Raab. This is Dominic Raab who's pushing this out. And he's the guy who negotiated the withdrawal agreement, then resigned because of the withdrawal agreement, voted for the withdrawal agreement, voted against the withdrawal agreement. Now he's saying no deal, and we're going to override the Parliament if it decides to go against no deal. And this is the person who's saying, we believe we need to get back control. For what? For the Parliament. And so,
is he right saying that Parliament cannot stop a no-deal scenario? I mean, we've had indicative votes on this in the past, haven't we, where there's no sentiment, no appetite for no deal in the majority of Parliament.
They'll stop it. They'll stop it one way or another, and the other way that will come down is, if Boris Johnson is elected as the leader of the Conservative Party and then becomes the Prime Minister, a vote of no confidence would be on the cards, and he may lose that.
And ironically, his demise could be in the hands of fellow Tories,
yes,
the likes of Ken Clarke, who threatened to bring down the government if he does pursue.
Yeah, and I mean, you have people out there saying, well, basically, we can't. I think Kazi Koteng was saying, basically, I don't see some of these people actually voting against their own party, and if they do, they should be, lose the whip. But some of them feel very strongly about this. And if you're looking at the business community, they've become much more vigorous in denouncing this no-deal scenario.
OK then, so what's going to happen? There's Boris Johnson pushing for that, the EU saying they will not change the withdrawal agreement. Are we looking at no deal or a general election or a second referendum? What's going to be the outcome?
Well, I think the second referendum is difficult because what's happening in the Labour Party at the moment. I think they'll wait till they get to the conference, and I think the delegates will really push the leadership on that. In the meantime, I think really general election is really on the table. And also the Conservative majority may shrink again with the next by-election, because the Brexit Party and the Liberal Democrats have done well in that constituency in assembly elections and in the European elections. So the Tories could lose that seat, and then they're down to 3 or 2
End up with a coalition government, and it make it even more confusing to deal with the EU then, wouldn't it?
Well, it depends on what the coalition would be made up of and who would be leading the coalition. And so, the Tory party is running down towards either Jeremy Hunt or more probably Boris Johnson, and that is the end game, because after that there's not much left.
Professor John Ryan, thank you very much indeed. Good to talk to you.